Donald Trump built his political career on the promise of draining the swamp. He vowed to expose and eradicate corruption both at home and abroad. A cornerstone of his rhetoric involved claims of foreign leaders misusing U.S. taxpayer dollars. He argued that American aid money, intended for development and humanitarian assistance, was being siphoned off by corrupt officials. Trump specifically targeted what he called globalist elites, accusing them of enriching themselves at the expense of hardworking Americans. His supporters cheered these pronouncements, finding resonance in his populist message. However, critics argue that Trump's actions often contradicted his fiery rhetoric. They point to his administration's decision to halt enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, or FCPA, as evidence of hypocrisy. The FCPA was designed to prevent American companies from bribing foreign officials. By easing its enforcement, critics argue, Trump opened the door to the very corruption he pledged to combat. One of the most intriguing allegations leveled by the Trump administration centered around North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. According to reports, U.S. intelligence agencies believe that Kim secretly holds assets within the United States. The exact nature and value of these assets remain shrouded in secrecy. Some speculate that these assets could include real estate, stocks, or even gold reserves. The existence of such assets, if confirmed, would raise serious questions about the effectiveness of U.S. sanctions against North Korea. It would also suggest a level of financial savvy and global reach that belies the North Korean regime's isolated image. Adding another layer to the intrigue is the situation of North Korean workers in the United States. While their presence is not widely known, a small number of North Koreans are legally employed in the U.S., primarily in blue-collar jobs. However, concerns have been raised about these workers' wages. Reports suggest that a significant portion of their earnings is sent back to North Korea, effectively funding the regime. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, has long been instrumental in delivering aid to developing nations. However, the agency has also faced persistent criticism for its handling of funds, particularly in countries with high levels of corruption. Critics argue that USAID has often failed to implement adequate safeguards, allowing corrupt officials to divert aid money for personal gain. Afghanistan stands as a stark example. Despite billions of dollars in aid poured into the country, corruption remains rampant. A significant portion of U.S. funds is believed to have been lost to fraudulent contracts, ghost employees, and outright theft. Similar concerns have been raised about USAID's operations in other countries, including Ukraine, Honduras, South Sudan, and Haiti. In each case, there have been allegations of aid money being misused, mismanaged, or outright stolen. Section 4. American aid aiding America's adversaries? Perhaps the most troubling aspect of U.S. foreign aid is the possibility that it indirectly benefits America's adversaries. While seemingly counterintuitive, there is evidence to suggest that American aid dollars have, in some instances, bolstered the economies of countries like Russia, China, Iran, and even North Korea. This unintended consequence often arises from the complex web of global trade and finance. For example, U.S. aid directed towards infrastructure projects in developing countries may end up benefiting Chinese construction companies. These companies, often state-owned or closely linked to the Chinese government, then funnel profits back to China. Similarly, humanitarian aid channeled through international organizations operating in countries like Iran or North Korea can be subject to manipulation. Corrupt officials may divert resources, ensuring that a portion of the aid intended for the needy ends up in the coffers of the regime. Section 5. The Trump administration cleaning house, or muddying the waters. The Trump administration came into office promising to address these concerns head-on. However, critics argue that their actions often exacerbated the very problems they claimed to solve. One of the most controversial moves was the firing of the USAID Inspector General, who had been investigating allegations of waste, fraud, and abuse within the agency. Furthermore, the administration's decision to halt enforcement of the FCPA was seen by many as a green light for American companies to engage in bribery abroad. This, coupled with allegations of self-dealing and favoritism within the Trump administration itself, cast a long shadow over their commitment to fighting corruption. While the Trump administration's approach to global corruption remains a subject of debate, one thing is clear: the issue is complex and multifaceted. Addressing it effectively requires a nuanced understanding of the global political landscape, a commitment to transparency and accountability, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about the flow of money and power on the world stage.